Good morning, everybody. It's 10 to 7 on a Sunday morning here in England, and a slightly different video this one. I've been sent a game by Nick Ozint-Bayan, who's just managed to get over 1000 in Rapid on chess.com for the first time. So this is the game that took him over 1000. So what we're going to do is we'll have a look at this game. I've got some black tea left in the pot from yesterday, and I've got me pot of coffee ready to go as well. Let's go over the game and see what does it take to get over 1000 in Rapid. So we have d4 from white. This is Nick's initial response. So he's going straight for the fianchetto here. Probably knight f6 is a more flexible first move. Another very common one is d5 that could go into queen's gambit lines. Okay, so white goes for the d4 c4 setup. So I'd imagine what we're going to do here is proceed with the fianchetto, proceed with knight f6, and then think about the pawn. So it's kind of a hyper-modern approach from black here. Okay, and knight f3. I think it's more common to put this knight behind, but doesn't really make a huge difference. So we're just kind of starting to maneuver now. It's not a super long game. It's a 24 move game. Okay, we have d6 now from black, preventing the knight from coming in here. You don't want to be swapping off your good fianchetto bishop for a knight this early on in the game. So this is a prophylactic move, just preventing the knight from coming in. Maybe also discouraging e4, e5. But white can certainly play e4 now, which is indeed what he does. So white's gone for this massive centre. And what black is doing is black is taking a hypermodern approach, which is something that was kind of fashionable in about 100 years ago, where players said, well, we don't have to fight tooth and nail for the control of the centre right out of the opening. What we could do is position our pieces to have some control of the centre, very often with fianchetto bishops, right? And then try and break and control the centre in the middle game. We fight for the centre then. Okay, so e6 now from Nick. So again, quite quiet, not directly contesting a lot of the centre. I mean, these are the four central squares, so he's got control over a couple of them. His bishop is also controlling d4 as well, it must be said. But this is three pawn moves. He's also kind of slightly blocked in this bishop as well for now. I think maybe it might be an idea to develop this bishop, but you've also always got to be careful that because of this little pawn structure here, if they try and kick you, you can't then retreat from here to here, because if there's a pawn there, you get trapped in. So if he'd have done this and h3, then he's got an issue, because retreating isn't an option. I probably have to take the knight. Otherwise, it's coming all the way back, like to d7, maybe e6. So you can understand why he doesn't develop, but also he's only used 6 seconds, whereas white has only used. Hang on, is this an increment game? No, it's a straight 10 minute. There's no increment. So these guys have blitzed out these first moves. Okay. So anyway, we have e6 from black, temporarily inconveniencing the bishop. It may still come to d7 with options later. Okay, bishop e2 from white, preparing to castle. Also kind of preventing any future pin on that knight. Ooh, Nick is going very slow and steady here. Or is this maybe a kind of a hippo setup as well, or something like that, isn't it? Then maybe the knights are going to come into the middle. Maybe that's what we're going to see. Okay, e5. That's a bit of a surprising move, to be honest. I would imagine that white would continue to develop and get castled. This feels like too early in the game for a second pawn push without building up your piece support. But then, you know, this is the 1000 level. So White here is Kreia Khan, rated 1038. Okay, so definitely kind of trying to blunt this bishop. But now, I don't know, black could trade off here, right? But then that could lead to a queen trade. And if you can make white's king have to capture, that is a factor in black's favour if you can prevent your opponent from castling, because it just slows down his development. So here I'd be very tempted to trade. What you don't want to end up with is blocked pawns really kind of gumming up this long diagonal, because that's black's kind of main idea right now. I think he's got another idea of fianchetting the other bishop. So you should really calculate here. I know you've only used 8 seconds, but if takes and takes, trade queens. If takes and knight takes, you've got the option of bishop takes, winning a pawn, and then trading queens. So I think I would go ahead and capture. Nick pushes d5. And now my concern is that's going to make life very hard for this bishop later on. We're going to have to chip away at these pawns for this bishop to come to life. And how do you do that? Well, you're going to have to push c5. Try and remove that pawn, then try and remove this pawn, maybe with a knight and bishop combination. Yeah. So, yeah, not sure about that d5 move. Okay, we have castles from white, and Nick plays knight e7. Obviously the knight can't come to f6. So he really has given up a lot of centre here. Bishop comes out with a pin, and Nick pushes out. This is a standard idea in, assuming this is like a hippo. It's starting to look very hippo-like, isn't it? Oh, and the bishop in it comes. So black here can just castle. Black here can castle. Or I'd also be tempted to take. That removes this pawn from the centre. Make it a very weak pawn that as soon as the knight moves, the queen will be able to attack. Yeah, I think I would trade. Good. Okay, we have trades. And the knight comes into f5. With a discovered attack on the pawn. Looking good now. If they take here, you've also got queen takes, getting the queen out into the board. They do take, you take back with the queen. Okay. So how are we looking? I mean, this pawn here is actually acting like a bit of a rock. Now, there's no dark squared bishop anyway, but yes, it is preventing the king from coming to either of these two squares, but at the same time, I would feel like if I castled here, maybe even king h7, defending these pawns again, you know. I think that's okay. I definitely expect this bishop to fianchetto to the b7 square, effectively pinning this knight unless it goes to this square, because there's the checkmate threat, right? But then, you never know. You never know. Oh yes, we could have ideas. Pushing the pawn to g5 to take that square away from the knight, and then coming after this. I mean, the thing is, we have an immediate issue here with two attackers on this pawn anyway. It does have two defenders, knight and queen. Okay, knight comes out, good move, hitting the queen. Queen comes all the way back to d8, now hitting this pawn again. Bishop comes out. Okay, now c6 is playable. It's defended by the knight, and it's a tempo move. Nick plays bishop d7. Okay, so here if takes, we'll certainly recapture with the knight. That would put two attackers on this pawn, and the bishop retreats. So now we can grab the pawn. Okay, queen grabs pawn. Cool. So we're up a pawn. d5. Here, my definite preference would be to push on. You could even simply castle. All right, let them take back with the bishop. We've really opened up the centre then. Your knight can come in, centralise your rook. This I don't get. I mean, to me, that is a good knight. It's in a fine position. It's got slight control over the centre. This feels like it's too early, Nick, to be... Because also, what's the point of this? Yeah, if they take you, queen takes. Also, kind of, it's like your bishop wanted to belong here as well. So I think also, from here, maybe knight d7 rather than bishop, because your bishop wants to go to b7. So I think, yeah, for me, okay, so knight here, knight here. They take, you take, fine. But what you're not doing is you've not developed this knight and you've not castled your king. Okay, we have takes and bishop takes. This is all good. Okay. So again, I think short castles is sensible here. Definitely want to develop this knight, probably c6, probably get this rook over onto the open file. Okay, we trade off. So I don't see really what's been achieved with all of that, but nothing terrible. Again, c6 is playable here. Now he brings the knight in. It is defended twice. And now white pins. So I think queen e7 or queen d8 or rook d8 is going to be required. Okay, explain this to me. Two attackers, one defender. White can now simply win a piece, yes? White spots it, and white is up a piece for a pawn. Okay, this was a blunder, right? You have to spot. Counting attackers and defenders. Two attackers, currently two defenders, but that one's pinned. Okay, now moving the king to d8 would break the pin, but still white would have takes, 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 and the king can't recapture. The king can't be the first to recapture because he'd be in check. Right, so that's an issue, which is why I'm thinking one of these pieces needs to come back and add a second defender to the knight, so that if they take, you take with the pawn, they've given up the exchange, that's it. This just removes, it gets out of the pin, but that king was one of the defenders of the knight. Okay, now rook a d8, and 8 minutes 41 as well, Nicholas. You've got a lot of time here that you ain't using. So, situation is, pawns are now even. This pawn's hanging. Undefended pawn here. My money's on white. But I think, ooh, hello. Hello. Okay, so this is a second attacker on here. Queen takes a7, doesn't defend that because the pawn on b6 is in the way. And 13 seconds again. And this is now mate in 2. And that's it, checkmate. Okay, so, my assessment, well done for spotting that. Not so well done on losing the bishop. Both players played this like a blitz game. Right, what are we doing having a 10-minute game and finishing with 8 minutes on the clock each? So yeah, I mean, to me, that was a 3-minute blitz, really, wasn't it? You know, White's used 2 minutes 5 seconds. Black has used even less time than that, 1 minute 45. But, like I always say, job done. You got the win. And I think you can probably see from my commentary, there were a few places in that game where a move looked unusual to me, or I've said, that isn't what I would play. I think that, you know, it just happened to pivot on tactics, but you can see the power of getting the rook on the 7th from your point of view, and then the queen coming just in there to finish the job. But yeah, I think probably more of a focus on developing pieces rather than pushing pawns. So if we have pawn push number 3 from white, and 4th there. Now, if he is going for this hippo setup, I get it. Yeah, this one to me. So we will have a look at the game review because I'm kind of interested. I'll have a drink of tea. Oh, look at this now. See, white was crushing, +5. +5 here. One blunder each. Okay. So see it from black's perspective. This is all bookity book. Still book. E6 is good. Okay, but you see that to me was like, okay, we can do better than that, because what you are blocking in this bishop, right? And you're not developing a piece. So best move here, according to the machine, is to develop a piece. Right, come out with a pin, which is what I pointed out. So that's an okay move. Bishop e2 is great. Another pawn push. Best move according to the machine, develop a piece. You see, there'll be a theme here, I reckon. Okay, e5 is inaccurate, but I don't like this move. This is a mistake. Already a mistake. Plus 1.4 in white's favour. And the reason is you've invested 2 moves in fianchettoing this bishop, and now it's killed. You know, this bishop is now almost out of the game because he's staring at blocked off pawns, which is what I said you don't want to do in the middle. So here, best move, I think, takes. Okay, the other fianchetto, leaving the tension here. Yeah, you can see the theme though, developing pieces. I don't think Nick ever got the bishop onto this square, having invested that move, right? Stick with the plan, man. Okay, so we have this. White castles, that's okay. Knight here, developing a piece. Good, h6, best move. Right? Can look clunky sometimes, but this is not a bad pawn. Okay, bishop comes in. And we trade off. Okay, knight there is fine. Queen takes was a mistake. This permits the opponent to eventually win a knight. Show. Well, there you go. I mean, any normal person here would just move the knight. But, okay. But, you know, it's queen out on the board. It's something. So, they play knight c3. Queen retreats. So that was a kind of a missed opportunity there. Here, I want this bishop to come to this square. You've invested that move to push b6. Get the bishop lined up with a king. This is your plan. You need to follow it through. So here, I like c6, and I think knight to d7 is fine. Inaccurate there. Computer says best move, c6. And c6, we're now at a kind of equal position. Okay, bishop retreats anyway. So he does this, kind of having to put plans on hold for the fianchetto. Bishop retreats all the way back. Queen takes the pawn. Okay. Pushes. So we have no dark squared bishop now. Takes. We're attacking 2 things. Yeah, I would ignore this. But knight h4. What's the point? What's the point in that move? Yeah? And the computer agrees. Mistake. We take back with the bishop. Allows the opponent to win a knight through a fork. This rook's also very vulnerable to a light squared bishop or queen attack, it has to be said. Okay, so he takes there, but the best move was... Oh, nice. The old queen fork. So here, look at this, right? This knight is defended by 2 pawns. It's centralized. It's controlling some good squares in the middle of the board, right? Now, you've just said, I'm going to take a perfectly good knight and I'm going to mess it up, right? And now it's on an undefended square, so loose pieces lose pieces. And I didn't spot this, but your opponent might well have done. Okay, because the bishop has just vacated this diagonal, right? There we go, the queen a4. Again here c6. Again, that's a mistake, right? Anytime you block a check with a piece, you pin the piece. So that is now a pinned knight. And there is pressure, you know, we know this rook's coming into the game. Here he comes. Okay, but that was a miss. There. And if takes, then queen d5 is the threat. Oh, attacking the rook. You see, because this rook isn't... There's no bishop here covering the diagonal, and because we've delayed castling so long, both the rooks are still in the corner. Now, when you're going to push these pawns, you've got to pay attention to the defense of your rook, and that's why the bishops belong plugged into these holes with definite potential attacking ideas, right? Don't want to be trading them off too soon. So yeah, queen d4 here. Sorry, queen d5 hits the rook, forces the rook to move, or castles, yeah. I don't know, don't quite see how it wins a knight, but hang on. What it's saying is queen d5, and the best move here for white is to short castle, because there is going to be another rook coming along here very soon, right? The best move being short castles and giving up the bishop. Wow. Okay, so that is what's wrong with knight to d7 to block. You're putting it right in the path of the queen and the bishop, forcing the king to be one of the two defenders of the knight. Now, rook e1 was a miss, should have traded off. And this is a blunder, as we mentioned that in the game. This is okay, but actually pinning slightly better. And basically, we got lucky here. Got very lucky that white blundered mate and 2. But you saw it and you finished it. Finished the job well done. So yeah, a lot of differences there between the the 1000 level play and then the 1500 level play. But one of the things that shocks me about this game is that it's over in 2 minutes. 2 minutes each. That obviously Nick, I'm sure, is going to go further than 1003. But to do that, slow down. Slow down and think about your plans. If you're going to play the hippo, fianchetto your damn bishops and leave them there to lurk as little snipers that they are till later. Yeah. When you've got a plan like that, execute the plan. And another thing as well is to get castle, get your king to safety earlier as well. It makes a big difference. Your opponent missed several opportunities here to punish you. But yeah, well done, got the job done, and congratulations on 1000. And let's see how much higher you can go. Right, hope that's useful for more of you guys out there. Thank you, Nick, for sending in the game. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.